So what's up, everybody? So I actually just made this video, but I'm going to redo it because I left something out. So anyway, as you can see, for those that noticed or haven't noticed or whatever, the rear end that I'm going to put underneath the Crown Vic has been completely stripped. The old Watts link that was on it is taken off. The half of the old drive shaft from the other car is over there in the pile. All that stuff's from mostly the Yukon, but the bent up shock that they cut is taken off. The cut upper and lower control arms that they left on here was taken off. The brake shoes have been taken off. I mean, the parking brake shoes are taken off. The brake rotors, calipers, all that stuff. The ABS wire or wheel speed sensor that they cut has been taken off. And when I go and swap everything over, I am going to, explain the parts, the size, the, nuts, bolts, what size wrench, socket, blah, blah, blah. You'll have to do it this way or that way. So, anyway. And I have all the parts for both sides of the brakes together, so that way when I get the parts that I've ordered, which I'll go into and I'll talk about in just a second, I'll know that I can match up everything, saying, okay, I got everything for this side, I got everything for that side. Then I'll just have to put everything back together. So with that being said, now I'll talk about what I ordered. So what I ordered was new rear shocks, brand new coil springs. They're both, the shocks are Monroe and the coil springs are Moog. And I ordered rear sway bar end links because the ones that were on this, obviously they cut, because that's the easiest thing to do apparently, instead of doing shit the right way. They cut them off and I had to throw them away, so got 2 new of those coming. The actual bushings that go on the mounts or the brackets, they don't look like they're in really bad shape, so I'm going to leave them alone for now. It is a good thing that I have the sway bar because my car does not have one, so that makes it even better for me. I feel like I got more out of this than I thought, aside from them puncturing one of the fucking wheels I told them I wanted. But anyways, I also realized and noticed that the ID tag that was on the rear diff cover, this has 327 gears in it, where my car has, I think, 273s. So that's a lot better of a ratio. That means I also have to get the speedometer recalibrated because it's not going to match. But ever since I put the 22s on it and then put those 19s or 20s on it that I had on from that Mach 1, it's never really been accurate. So it is what it is. As long as you know what it's supposed to be and how much of a difference it is, you're fine. But I've taken everything off. I'm probably not going to reuse the bolts that I've left in the axle. So like the caliper bolts, I'm not going to need the upper control arm bolt on this side, the upper lower control arm bolt on this side, the lower shock bolt on this side. All that stuff I'm not going to need. I did empty the gear oil in this just to make sure that there was some, and there was enough. There was more than enough. I know it was at least 4, maybe 4.5 quarts. It almost filled up my pan completely, so that's a good thing. And the bearings sound good, so I'll roll them so y'all can hear. And I know that y'all are probably gonna be like, well, that doesn't sound very good. Well, that's because there's no oil in there, so you don't think that this sounds good now, but once you go and put oil in it, it quiets it down a lot, because it's thicker, so it makes it quiet. They sound good. The only problem with this having the 327s is, yes, that's a good gear ratio, but it does not have the track lock in it, so it is not limited slip, which isn't really a big deal in my opinion, but to some people that might be a deal breaker. I tried to find a police car that was wrecked, but I couldn't find one. And this one was literally right down the road. But then this is the one we all want to hear. You can hear it so quiet. It's not all burnt to hell like the one that's in the car right now. And I'm probably not going to use these bolts. These are just the 12-point bolts that I drop on the floor. 12-point drive shaft bolts. I think they were a 12 millimeter 12-point. I have specific drive shaft sockets for that I wanted to use. So I do need to buy a new gear oil, and I keep seeing a bunch of different things about it, so I'm gonna have to look in the owner's manual in a little while so that I know exactly what to put in it, because I don't know what was in it. I think you're supposed to use 75W110. Maybe. I'm seeing a bunch of different things about that, so I'll see what that says. But yeah, I've got a rear diff cover gasket coming. I've got the 2 rear shocks, 2 rear springs, the park and brake shoe kit for the whole axle, because they come in a pair, just like when you buy regular brake pads, they come for the whole axle. And then I've got sway bar end links. So there's a good bit of stuff coming for this axle just to get the car running. I'm not going to replace the brake cables because there's nothing wrong with the ones that are on the car. I'm just going to swap them over. I'm probably not going to put everything back on this axle until it's underneath the car. Like the park and brake cables, I'm not going to mess with. I'm not going to put the brake shoes back on. I'm not going to put the brakes on it. I'm not going to put the calipers on it. Good thing is I'm not going to have to bleed the brakes, because I can just leave the calipers hooked up or hanging up on the car somewhere underneath and then literally just swap them over. The only thing I probably will need, which is not going to be really expensive, is the brake hardware, just the 2 pieces of metal that the pads slide on, because I feel like I could get them off of the axle that's on it now and not damage them, but I don't want to say that for certain if I don't know, and I don't want to say, yeah, I'll be fine, and all of a sudden I go and bend the hell out of them. So, but yeah, and the park and brake shoes on both sides were in really bad shape, especially the ones on the driver's side, which are right here. These are really bad. That's why I'm replacing them. I've never actually replaced park and brake shoes on any of the vehicles I've ever owned, and I've owned quite a lot. I also left all the hardware right next to everything on each side, so that way when the stuff gets here, I can look and make sure that I've got everything. And then the only other thing I need to swap from that is the Watts link, the upper and lower control arms for both sides, and the vent for the axle, the vent tube, and obviously the Watts link and stuff like that, if I didn't say that already. I have to buy a new cover because that one's seen better days, and it's bent to hell and stuff, and my key is going off in my pocket unlocking the Yukon. But yeah, so we're getting there. My stuff's supposed to be here later this week. It's supposed to be here Thursday and Friday. It's Wednesday, so tomorrow and Friday. So we'll see. I'll be waiting on that. I also did not spray out the gears. I didn't spray out none of that, just because I didn't have any brake cleaner at the time. Because I'll also spray off the where is it? The brakes, where the brake were on both sides. Get all the brake dust off of it, nice and clean. Won't be any issues. Excuse me. I'm also probably going to just clean the axle up. I don't know if I'm going to paint it. I'll probably just leave it how it is, but I don't know, because I kind of want it to be painted so it'll look nice, because this is the first time I've ever taken an axle out of a vehicle to put underneath another one. This is actually the first time I've ever bought a used part to put on a vehicle that's something like this, like drivetrain related. I've never replaced an engine, transmission, or anything. And there's the fucking train. So anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you later.